Well, here we are. It's Wednesday. Let's see, October 26, 2022, and the Rousset sale that we talked about a few weeks ago. We did a preview on it because it was such an amazing collection. Is ended just a short time ago. It ran for the last 2 days. I know a lot of you have been following it because the material was so interesting and so fabulous, and the results were blockbuster, to put it mildly. And those of you that want to learn about how to sell at auction, what the Roussets did working with Bonhams was really sort of a master class on how to create an auction, how to market an auction, and how to encourage bidding. This was how you do it. Well, it's a formula. You get great things, top quality things first and above all. Then you get it coming out of a collection of a long time, highly regarded French family, dealers, they're collectors, museum benefactors, well known in the Asian art circles and the antique circles in general around France and Paris. They were known in New York. They were dealers and collectors going back over 100 years, 130 years. Very well known, prominently present at sales at the Drouot, going to Christie's in Paris and other places, and Sotheby's and Bonhams, and they were ubiquitous. Very good reputations for quality, and here they are. They're selling off the 120, 130 year family collection. So how do you do it? You do it by the first thing you do is you get an auction house that can market it, and any of the three big auction houses certainly can market this, and some of the mid-range ones could do this too. But what they did with Bonhams was they had a well-written catalog. They had it in several languages. They included lots of personal pictures of the family throughout the years, doing things, sitting in rooms with the objects and all that great stuff that gets people excited. And then what did they do? They said, we're going to put low estimates on everything, very low estimates, mostly across the board. That means very, very low reserves, because as many of you know, the reserve is the minimum selling price below which an item won't be actually sold. So if you have something with an estimate of $1,000 to $1,500, the reserve can't be any higher than $999. And in this case, that's what they did. They put very low reserves, very low estimates, and they marketed it as everybody's got a shot. And when everybody thinks they have a shot at buying at an auction, without reserves, unreserved auctions, basically this was an unreserved auction, is what this amounts to. And you don't see auctions like this very often, but it is a way to get things into the market at a very, very strong price, because it encourages vast amounts of participation. It creates excitement. And, in some cases, the estimates on here were estimates you might have seen for the same object in the 1970s or 80s. This was not an accident. They didn't. I don't think for a second that Bonham's people and the people at Cornet de Saint-Cyr, who is a subsidiary of Bonham's, had any doubts about what the stuff would bring. But they were able to talk to the Rousset family, and the Rousset family maybe said, absolutely, this is the way to do it, because they've been buying at auctions for years. But for a lot of dealers, this would be unimaginable, to take an object that might be worth $1 million and put a $300,000 or $400,000 estimate on it, meaning they have a reserve of only a couple of hundred, a little under 300,000. They wouldn't do it. People won't do that unless they have courage. And if you have courage, it's profitable. And we're going to go through some of the prices and talk about them, and it'll become pretty clear what happened. All right. The first thing I want to talk about, just to remind folks, this was one of the bronzes that we talked about in the video announcing the sale. And it was a great little Ming bronze, beautifully rendered, beautifully articulated, great sense of motion, nice patina, not very big, 5 or 6 inches tall. And they had put an estimate on this of just $200 to $300. And those of you who have been collecting for any length of time know that this bronze is worth a lot more than $200 or $300. In the end, it ended up selling for $5,355, a very, very strong result. Okay, and we've seen examples like this sell on eBay and on Live Auctioneers and other auction houses, very, very similar, and they typically bring $1,000 to $2,000, maybe $2,500. This one blew all that away and went for $5,355 because they had such enormous interest. On a lot of these lots, you're going to see there was obviously so much interest that it went beyond what you typically see in prices, because people get locked onto it. They won't let go, and bang, you're in business. And here's another example of this Zhao Dynasty bronze Fang Hu. It was estimated at 150,000 euros. And here it is. It was a beautiful example. They had pictures of it in the house. This is how you sell the stuff. Great photography of the bottom, of the sides. You get a real sense of the patina. And this was a big bronze, of course. It was over 20 inches tall, I believe, right? 23 and a half inches tall. And it had a loss. This is the thing, one of the arms on the one of the handles on the side of the neck here was missing, and despite all that, it still brought $403,575. All right, and then they had other items like this, more modestly priced things, but still did just fine. They did very well, and as a lot of you know, this was a Wei Dynasty figure, and a lot of these painted pottery figures have been a little bit of a lag in the market. There's not a lot of demand for them. People don't go crazy for them the way they did back in the 60s and 70s, and let's see here. It was estimated. This was estimated at a few $100. Ended up selling for $2,550. There it is. Very, very nice example. Beautiful color and all that. And it went for way over the estimate because the estimate was, again, arbitrarily low. And that's what you end up seeing. And then this, you have the jade example from the 6th Dynasty period. A very lovely little jade. We talked about this last week. It's 4.5 inches long, beautifully carved, beautifully polished. The carver did an outstanding job of incorporating these colored inclusions in the stone to his work. He adopted it over beautifully. He planned it out, very thoughtful, meticulous carving, good detail, and went for $44,475. Again, blowing away its estimate. And then when you get on to the rest of the sale, you had the Ming Huanhua Li table. By the way, the connection loss things means that they've over there we're on the Bonhams site right now. It looks like they've disconnected the auction. And it's formally over. But at any rate, the Huanhua Li table. Okay, and this table was estimated at around 60 to 80,000. It was fairly close to what it sold for, but it sold 82,275. And I know by looking at this table, there are a lot of dealers out here. Had they owned this table, they probably would have wanted it estimated at 100, 120, 150,000. The Roussets were smart about it. They said, well, we're not so sure. Make it reasonable, and it went through, sold. And then on to this, the very rare lacquer table with the pottery inset top. Here it is. Outstanding quality lacquer work. There's the pottery top. We talked about it last 2 weeks ago. Beautifully done. A couple of dragons facing off over the pearl of perfection, and then you have all this very, very fine lacquer work around the outside, and basically just red, gold, and black. But it has a very dramatic effect. And this was a really fine example. It was made during the Ming Dynasty, and it ended up selling for $1,482,375, way over its estimate. But it's been off the market for many years, and as you know, Ming Furniture right now has a lot of support for it. And that was that. Again, something bought by I think this was bought by Jean-Pierre Rousset many years ago. And then we talked about this because it was this. I remember this. It had an 8 to 1,200 euro estimate. It's a Qianlong period famille rose vase. It was 20 inches tall. An absolutely beautiful example, and of course grossly underestimated, rare form with these masks on the sides below the shoulder. Typically you see the masks up here on the shoulder, and in this case they mounted them lower, sort of almost at the midsection. But it was very successful visually, really successful visually, and ended up selling for $7,650. And I don't think that was too much for it. I think that was one of the better buys of the sale, because it obviously wasn't worth 8 to 1,200. But if it had gone for 10 or 15,000, I wouldn't have been horribly surprised either. It's one of those items it's hard to figure out. And then onto this, that they had a lot of Japanese inrows in the sale. They had a good bit of Japanese material, but this was just an example. Had a very, very modest estimate, and it ended up with the flying cranes, and it took off, and it ended up selling for $6,375. Not bad. That was a good result. And the Japanese material was strong throughout as well. That's the good news, is the Japanese material did well. The Himalayan art all did well. The Cambodian art all did well. The Indian art all did well. All of it. It was across the board in multiple disciplines. Everything did fabulously well. And then you had this. This was one of the major lots on the sale, was this carved limestone Buddha, polished limestone Buddha head. Let's see here. How big was this thing? 17 inches tall, Qi Dynasty, really great, beautiful thing. Ended up selling for $1,482,000. Again, way over its estimate. All right, and this was a very, very fine example. Obviously, it had been in the family's collection going back many, many, many years, and the crowd went crazy for it. They loved it, and that's a strong price for one of those. And then you had other pieces like this really nice little pottery figure of a gentleman. It was estimated just a few $100s, and from the Sui dynasty. And Sui material, as a lot of you know, I think Sui aesthetically is extremely attractive stuff. But for some reason, a lot of collectors ignore it. They think of other things, Tang and Han, if they buy early things, and they overlook Sui. And I think some of the details and the proportions, the way Sui figures are done is just really exceptional. And this sold for 3,570 euros, and it was small. It was 12 inches tall. This wasn't a big, 3 or 4 foot statue. It was a foot tall. $3,570, but I think that's a fair price, a very, very fair price. And then you had this example. Now, how tall was this? This was another Sui dynasty example. This was 25 inches tall, and we talked about this last week because it was so beautiful. It was estimated, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500, whatever it was, and we're going to put the estimates in here as we go along. Anyway, it sold for $25,000. But look at the facial features on this. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I absolutely loved this thing. I thought it was great. It had such appeal. The way the body is glazed, that brown glaze, beautifully potted, nice big size, and looked to be in outstanding condition. $28,050. And then over here to the Ming table with a stone top with an inscription. Very, very desirable form. This, of course, is one of the most refined forms of all the Ming furnitures, Ming tables, and it had this beautiful stone top with an inscription. These were made for putting drinks on and mixing, like a mixing table. It's interesting because in the West, in English and American furniture of the 18th century, they also made wooden tables with stone tops, and they also used them for mixing drinks. So I guess drinking and having cocktails is ubiquitous around the world. And this table sold for $504,375. Did very, very well. It was a beautiful table. And then this was, of course, the cover lot. This was a good-sized statue. Let's see here. Dated out from the Jin Dynasty, 26 inches tall. Pretty good-sized pot. It had been in the family collection for years. There are lots of photographs of it. Beautifully detailed. Lots of traces of pigment and gilding still on it. Very powerfully done head with these very strong facial features. The high brow and the nose and all of this. Just very, very powerful. And a very powerful-looking figure physically. Squared shoulders, big arms, strong-looking torso, and all this beautiful Buddha figure. Nicely done folds in the robes, and it sold for $3,342,000. That was the big lot in the sale. It was estimated at a little over $1 million, and it just blew it away. 300% of estimate. And then on to this, the Ming painting. This was a wonderful painting, and somebody emailed me, and they wondered why they didn't call it Japanese, because it does have some of the colors that you expect to see in Japanese art, because the Japanese adopted a lot of these colors in their own paintings, this style in their own early paintings during the Edo period and before and so forth. But you see this rock, when you see these types of flowers and this scholar's type rock sticking out in the background, and the costume of the woman clearly Chinese. And this did very, very well, $504,375, and it was estimated at around 30 to 50 or something like that. Very, very modest estimate, went for over 10 times its high estimate. A great example. And then these beautiful carvings. They had called these, I think they just dated them as Qing Dynasty, 18th or 19th century. I thought they were Qianlong. I thought they were so well done, beautifully done, nice color and in pristine condition with beautiful bases. And they were nice size, 10 inches tall, not enormous, but very, very attractive. And they had nice photographs of the backs and so forth, beautifully polished. And they had a modest estimate and ended up selling for $19,125. But absolutely wonderful. For the Qing buyer, for a Qing collector, these would be just great to have. They're just because they're so meticulously well done. And then you had the Thai Buddha head, Sukhothai, wonderfully done, in good size, 17 inches tall. It was a fairly large one. Again, well over its estimate, going for 176,775 euros. And then the last thing was this very lovely little Blanc de Chine figure, pot, 17th or 18th century, somewhere in there, late Ming, early Qing dynasty, but really well done, really well done. Very, very fine glaze on this. If you look at one of the things that really drives the price on these is this creamy glaze. Very, very, very lovely. It looked like it had a crack in the handle though. And it's still, look at the price, $7,650, $7,650. All right, and that is sort of the flavor of the entire auction as you go through it. I would urge people to go over there and study the estimates, study the prices. The estimates are removed from their listings once the item sells, but the catalogs are still available on Bidamount in the bookcase. Off the homepage, those of you that aren't familiar with it, I do it every time just to remind people. If you go to the homepage on bidamount.com and click the red bar, go to the catalog section, and you will find this catalog in there, and you can search for it if you're looking at this video in a few months. But and look, you can either search for just typing in Rousset, or you can just scroll around until you find it. I would suggest using the search, because there's 732 books and auction catalogs in here already. But there's the catalog, and you can click it open, and it will have all the reserves in it, and you can go through and study what they were willing to accept for estimates, and then take a look at what it sold for. All right, and this is why, again, it was successful. It would have been successful even with stronger estimates and so forth. But when you have the events like this with great material, single owner collection, wide range of objects from many cultures. They had French furniture in the sale, of course. They had other objects in the sale that weren't Asian at all. They had some very nice carpets and so forth. When you have that broad a range, you create a mountain of interest, and you collect interest from people that aren't necessarily even collectors, just people that enjoy beautiful objects. They're not scholars on this subject, but they want to have something nice. They're well off, and they want to have some beautiful things in their home. And this is the kind of thing that smart people go after, the kind of sale the smart people that are looking to get value. They go and look at auctions like this because the item will forever have the provenance of the Rousset family tied to it, and they own it. And if they ever go to sell it, every auction house in the world would be delighted to accept any item from this collection. Now that this is over, if you bought something here and in 15 or 20 years you're downsizing or retiring or change of direction in what you collect, you just say, we've got some things from the Rousset collection, and they'll be happy to come to your house and pick it up, I'm sure. All right. So the sale was fantastically successful. I don't know what the total was. It was in the many millions. Judging by what I'm seeing, I'm thinking probably in the 8 to 12 million, 10 to 15 million dollar range, something like that. But that's a fabulous result for a single owner collection of this of this type, and Again, as I said, all of the art did well, all of it. Even the door bronzes and the gilt French bronze, everything did well. There was interest from everybody, and of course it's Paris, so you've got an ideal market right there. It's a little bit of a nuisance to ship in and out of France, but when the stuff is strong enough, people are going to show up for it and they're going to participate, and that's exactly what happened. All right, so. We'll be back later in the week with some more videos, and I'm really happy to see this result. And those of you that are interested in Chinese and Japanese and Asian art in general should be happy too. And again, as I said, if you want to know how to be a consignor someday, study the auction, study this auction, study the estimates, study how it was put together, and it's the absolute perfect formula for selling a collection. Absolutely perfect, and the result was perfect. So. On we go. If you haven't subscribed yet, here, please do. We do these videos once or twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on what's going on in the art world. And join the community. All right. Have a great rest. Leave a comment and tell me what you think of this auction. I thought it was pretty fabulous, to put it mildly. All right. Bye-bye.